Incredible revelation. Billionaire exposed the hidden truth behind Triplets' unexpected kickout. Ava, Ben, and Chloe stood on the cracked sidewalk, staring at the peeling paint of their childhood home. The weight of eviction loomed over them like heavy clouds threatening a storm. Their mother's tired eyes held stories of sleepless nights filled with bills that stacked like a mountain, reminding them of their father's relentless pursuit to keep the family together. At 25, each tick of the clock felt like a countdown to collapse, as they stood on the precipice of adult life, staring into the abyss of choices shaped by a mountain of fear and confusion. They had grown up laughing in that house, weaving dreams into the fabric of their lives as innocently as the summer clouds drifted by. But now, those dreams felt shattered, the house looming as a grave reminder of what once was, and what might soon vanish forever. Their community was suffocating under the weight of economic hardship. Hope felt like a fading mirage. What would happen next? What would they do? Disparate thoughts ricocheted in their minds, sparking discord and desperation in their chests. Just then, a sleek black SUV rolled into view, a stark contrast to the rusty gates of their past. Out stepped Max Harrington, a self-made billionaire clad in confidence and success. Their father's childhood best friend stood before them, the sudden hope glimmering in their hearts like a distant star but quickly overshadowed by uncertainty. What could someone like him want from them now? Had he come to gloat or save them? Gathering around Max, they listened as he unveiled a truth that sent shockwaves through their bond, a hidden family trust established by their father, meant to catch them if they fell. The surprise collided with lingering doubts. How could they accept help without feeling as though they were surrendering to the very dangers that had brought them to this terrible brink? Did this lifeline come at a cost that would tarnish their father's steadfast legacy? As the days passed, the pressure mounted. Max dangled promises of a brighter tomorrow, yet these came tethered to strings they did not understand, leading to an unsettling realization: accepting aid could mean compromising the very essence of who they were. With every tick of the clock, Ava wrestled internally: should they sacrifice their father's honor for security? Ben, pragmatic and protective, pointed out that survival sometimes demanded uncomfortable choices. Chloe, the idealist, yearned to untangle the truth behind their father's decisions, believing that compassion was a treasure far beyond monetary wealth. The conversation escalated, charged with apprehension and fervent emotion, growing tauter with each conflicting viewpoint. Ava felt pulled between loyalty and desperation, her thoughts racing in tangled webs. Ben gulped, clenching his fists, his mind darting toward practicality even as his heart ached with uncertainty. Meanwhile, Chloe, eyes wide with fervor, wondered if the key to understanding their father lay among old, forgotten echoes. Just as their argument reached its boiling point, Ava's subconscious prodded at an old memory, leading her to rummage through the attic. Among dust and echoes, she stumbled upon an envelope, its contents a mystery that could shatter or save their fragile understanding of family. As she held the letter, the palpable tension hovered over them, anticipation crackling in the air. They stood, suspended in a moment of discovery that could redefine everything they believed, surrounded by shadows of the past and the uncertainty of their future. The room felt charged, heavy with the swell of unspoken questions that begged to be answered. Would they choose to honor the deep-rooted legacy of their father or grasp at the thread of wealth dangling before them, forever altering the course of their lives? In that poised instant, they teetered on the edge of a life-altering decision, one that could either redeem their family or shatter it once more into irreparable fragments. Ava's fingers trembled as she ripped open the envelope, her heart pounding against her ribs like a caged bird desperate for freedom. With each scrape of paper against paper, the tension in the air thickened, and the world around her faded into a blur. Inside, she found a letter, its ink faded but still legible, penned in their father's unmistakable handwriting. Each word seemed to resonate with weighty importance, drawing her deeper into the swirling chaos of her thoughts. "Dear Ava, Ben, and Chloe," she read aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. "If you are reading this, then my greatest fears have come to pass, and I want you to know that you are never alone. In times of hardship, remember your worth lies not in material provisions but in love and resolve." The emotional power of the words wrapped around her like a warm embrace, yet the gravity of their implications sent shivers through her spine. What had he known that they hadn't? What burdens had he carried alone? As she continued to read, Ava's perception shifted. The intention behind their father's creation of the trust took on a new light. It wasn't merely a financial safety net. It was a testament to his unwavering faith in their strength to rise above adversity. Suddenly, the notion of accepting Max's help began to morph, wasn't it? In a way, honoring their father's legacy rather than betraying it? Ben shifted uneasily, rubbing the back of his neck in a sign of growing agitation. Ava, we can't just accept help blindly. This isn't just about money. It's about our integrity, about standing on our own 2 feet. His pragmatic stance clashed with the revelations Ava was uncovering. The emotional complexity left her torn between the love for her family and the heavy weight of expectations. But what if our father intended for us to take this? He wanted to protect us, not just financially but emotionally. He believed in us tearing through storms together. Chloe, perched on the edge of the old wooden chair, watched the two with her wide, observant eyes. Maybe we need to find a balance. We can receive this help without losing ourselves. The question is, what does that look like? The concept ignited a flicker of determination in Ava's mind. She envisioned a way forward that included both accepting the family trust and understanding their father's true message. It would be a partnership, not a surrender, a chance to build something new from the ashes of their struggles. Let us talk to Max, she proposed, grounded by a sudden clarity. Let us confront him, not just about the money but about his intentions. We deserve to know what strings might be attached, to unravel the complexities together. Ben and Chloe exchanged cautious glances, the fight against reality brewing a sense of urgency within them. Ava's newfound resolve sparked courage in the both of them. All right. Let us face him, Ben finally agreed. But we need to be prepared for whatever it might mean. We mustn't undermine ourselves. With the air thick with the dawning realization of their choices, the triplets stepped out of the attic. This was just the beginning of their confrontation, not just with Max, but with their past, their future, and themselves. Each of them felt an emboldening fire flicker within as they analyzed what they were willing to fight for. As they approached the door, a thought tugged at Ava's mind. What if managing the family trust wasn't just an obligation but a calling? If their father had believed in their strength, why couldn't they? The mounting anticipation surged through their hearts like electrical currents. Would they uncover truths in their confrontation with Max that could reshape their entire understanding of family, wealth, and integrity? With nothing but uncertainty ahead, they braced themselves. The time had come to confront not only their own fears but the hidden truths that would determine their futures. And as they stepped outside, the world around them felt surreal, altered by the gravity of their decision to dive into the unknown and explore what lay beneath the surface. The air outside felt heavy with impending storms, both literal and figurative, as Ava, Ben, and Chloe walked toward Max's office. The significance of the family trust weighed on her. This was more than just a financial discussion. It was an exploration of their family's legacy and what it meant to stand together in a world that felt increasingly chaotic. Ava kept her gaze focused ahead, her mind racing with emotions. She had spent each quiet moment since the letter's arrival trying to dissect their father's words, finding meaning in the complexities he left behind. Beneath the fabric of his message lay a challenge, to honor their past while forging their distinct paths. Could accepting the trust be a transformative act rather than a concession? Remember, we need clarity, she whispered, the words escaping her lips with a newfound intensity. This isn't just about the money. It's about understanding what this trust truly means for us. Ben nodded, tension coiling in his shoulders. We need to know if Max sees us as partners or just a means to an end. If he's acting in our best interests, or if we're just another asset. Chloe walked slightly behind, her expression contemplative. She had always been the quiet observer, watching the world spin around her. Today, though, she felt something shifting. Beneath her uncertainty lay a dormant resilience that was beginning to awaken. He's not just a businessman, he's also our family's oldest friend. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't question him. As they approached the office building, Ava's heart raced with the realization of what was at stake. This meeting had the potential to redefine their relationships, not just with Max, but with themselves and each other. The thought both invigorated and terrified her. Inside the sleek corporate building, everything felt polished and sterile, a stark contrast to the emotional whirlwind brewing within. Max was waiting in the conference room, his demeanor deceptively relaxed as he gestured for them to take a seat. Ava took the lead, her anxiety giving way to a steely determination. "Max, thank you for meeting with us." Her voice held a confidence she was beginning to feel deep within. "We've gotten some unexpected news from Dad's letter. We want to discuss the family trust, specifically how it fits into the bigger picture of our current situation." Max's eyes flickered with an unreadable expression, a mix of surprise and something more inscrutable. "I understand. Your father's trust was designed to be a refuge, a means for you to navigate your future. I stand ready to help you understand it." "Help us understand it?" Ben repeated, his skepticism palpable. "What exactly do you stand to gain by guiding our way? We need transparency here." Max's gaze didn't waver, and an unsettling tension filled the room as his fingers steepled. "I understand your concerns. But you also need to consider that these resources come with opportunities that could position you for success." Ava could feel the pulse of her thoughts quicken. This wasn't merely about financial security. It was about a deeper question of identity and responsibility. "We need to know the implications behind every decision, every potential partnership. The value is not just numbers, it's about trust." For a moment, the air crackled with unspoken words as Max leaned forward. "Trust isn't built in haste," he replied, his tone shifting to sincerity. "It's nurtured through understanding. That is precisely why we must dive into the details, peel back those layers together." Ava's heart raced, sensing the vulnerability that had just emerged. This confrontation was not just courage for the sake of their father, it was also a leap into the unknown, a tremendous pivot toward their collective destinies. "Let us dig deeper," she said, emboldened. "Let us examine not only what the trust entails but what we truly want for ourselves moving forward." As the meeting progressed, the layers began to peel back. Just as Ava started to feel the tentative threads of empowerment weaving together, a new layer of complexity emerged. Max's guarded demeanor suggested that there were aspects to the trust probably dark and intricate that remained obscured. Was he here to fortify them, or to subtly manipulate their insecurities? And as this realization dawned, unmistakably heavy, Ava felt the unsettling notion that their confrontation with Max was only the beginning. What buried truths lay beneath the surface? Would they emerge stronger or fractious? Ava's pulse quickened as they continued to delve deeper. This journey was anticipated to expose their insecurities and questions, but would it, ultimately, pull them apart or bind them together even more tightly? The hidden truths danced on the fringes, waiting to be unearthed. As discussions continued, the atmosphere in the room shifted, morphing from mere inquiry to a deep dive into uncertainty. Ava could feel the collective unease radiating from her siblings. Ben leaned forward, lips pressed tightly as if resisting an outburst, while Chloe stared intently at Max, her brow furrowing in consideration, as if she were deciphering complex equations in her head. "Let us lay our cards on the table," Ben finally said, his voice cutting through the tension. "You're implying several possibilities here, but what does this mean for us? What happens if we step into this trust? Will there be strings attached?" Max regarded them, this time openly assessing their apprehensions. "Every opportunity carries its responsibilities, Ben. Your father wanted to ensure you would have not only resources but also guidance. The trust can empower you, but it requires a commitment to understanding and leadership. If you accept it, you must also be prepared to navigate the waters of expectations." Ava's heartbeat echoed in her ears as Ben's skepticism intensified. "Expectations? What does that involve, Max? We didn't ask for this burden, it was thrust upon us." At that moment, Ava's internal compass swung. She felt the urge to defend their father's legacy, not just as a matter of inheritance, but as a moral obligation. "You're right, Ben. We didn't ask for this. But now, we can either let it define us in a way that shackles us or embrace the chance to shape it to our advantage." Understanding this trust might be the first step toward claiming our identities rather than allowing them to be dictated by assumptions. Chloe nodded slowly, the wheels in her mind visibly turning. But what if there's more to it than opportunity? What if accepting the trust ties us to things we can't stomach? Every decision comes with inherent risks, Chloe, Max interjected smoothly. But think about the potential. The influence, the ability to enact real change in whatever path you choose. Ava sensed that beneath Max's steely exterior lay a hint of urgency, perhaps even desperation. A faint glimmer of something darker flickered in his eyes, a potential greed wrapped in concern for their future. She straightened her back, gathering her thoughts into a coherent plan. Max, if we do this, we need a transparent roadmap. What's our endgame? If these resources truly aim to elevate us, we can forge a partnership. But if it's anything else, we want to participate. For the first time, the room felt charged with collective purpose. Max's intrigue returned, his eyes sharpening. Ambitious. I value that approach, but understand, not everyone rises to such calls. It takes more than just ambition, it demands tenacity and resolve. Ben crossed his arms tightly, unconvinced. And what does that entail in real terms? Over the next few meetings, we will outline the intricacies of the trust and your responsibilities, not merely as recipients but as active participants in its legacy, Max replied, reflecting a professional facade. But keep in mind, the trust has clauses that some may find disconcerting. Patrons often expect loyalty and can withdraw support if there are breaches of faith. Ava exchanged glances with her siblings, and in those silent moments, realization dawned. The weight of their father's legacy planted seeds of responsibility in their palms, giving rise to moral dilemmas, expectations, and possibly even betrayal. What are these clauses? She asked, her voice steady, cutting through the fraying air of uncertainty hanging thick. Max hesitated for just a breath too long, pausing before responding. Let us say, accepting this trust means you would have to confront certain uncomfortable truths about your family's past and potentially about each other. There are secrets, some of which may test your loyalty. Ava felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Was this the discovery their father had hinted at? Would the truth bind them tighter together or unravel the very fabric of their relationships? Sweat trickled down the back of her neck as she weighed the potential fallout. One phrase cycled through her mind forcefully. If they peeled back these layers, what horrors or truths would they expose? The question hung palpably in the room, heavy with the anticipation of revelation. What lurking fears would they have to confront, not just with Max but within their own hearts? The decision loomed, an acceptance that could forge their paths or a rejection that might save them from themselves. Ava inhaled deeply, ready to push back, to challenge. The time had come to face their choices. Let us prepare for what's next then, she said, her resolve hardening. But the shadows still loomed large. Would they be ready for what lay beyond the surface? Ava's thoughts raced as the weight of each unspoken truth hung like a shroud. Her siblings exchanged furtive glances, and the air crackled with an unvoiced apprehension that threatened to drown out her resolve. She could sense their collective hesitance. The legacy they had inherited felt more like a chain than a gift. Ben remained skeptical, arms crossed tightly, creating a fortress around his apprehensions. Chloe shifted nervously in her seat, her usual analytical demeanor faltering as she weighed their father's intentions and Max's ambiguous promises. How do we know this isn't just another manipulation? Ben finally broke the silence, frustration seeping into his tone. We'll be stepping into a mess we barely understand. Are we really equipped for this? Maybe it isn't about being fully equipped, Ava replied, her voice steady. Maybe it's about being willing to learn and adapt. We have a chance to rewrite our narrative, one that's not dictated by our past but forged by our choices. What if those choices lead us down a dark path? Chloe's voice trembled slightly, concern lacing her otherwise logical tone. What if we end up exposed in ways we can't predict? Ava recognized the fear still gripping her sister's heart, a fear magnified by the absence of their father's guiding presence. We can't live in fear of the unknown, she stated firmly, channeling every ounce of conviction within her. We have to confront it head-on. Max watched them with an intensity that made Ava uneasy. The acceptance of this trust would indeed require introspection, he interjected, his tone slightly more cautious now. The truth can be burdensome, and the consequences of digging too deep can be profound. Are all three of you prepared to face that? A moment of silence stretched between them, thinning like ice threatening to crack beneath their feet. Each sibling seemed to wrestle with their own doubts, battling their internal demons. Ava's heart clenched at the thought of what lay hidden in their family's past secrets that had the potential to tear apart the very foundation they sought to build. Taking a deep breath, Ava leaned forward, determination igniting within her like a flare in the dark. It's not just about us, is it? This is bigger than our fears. If there are truths to be uncovered, we owe it to ourselves and our Father to confront them. We can't allow ourselves to be victims of our circumstances. Chloe's brow furrowed deeper, the process of reconciling her brother's hesitations and Ava's fierce resolve visible on her face. But those truths could change everything. We would have to redefine who we are. It's a cost we'll have to weigh, Ava acknowledged, her mind racing with possibilities. Better to confront our reality than to bury it under layers of confusion. We can't let the weight of our father's legacy crush us. Ben's arms unfolded slightly as he began to reconsider. What if we did take control? What if we became active participants rather than reluctant heirs? The flicker of hope ignited in the room, creating a burgeoning space for possibilities. A sense of unity began to stitch through their shared uncertainty, but the undercurrent of fear remained palpable. Ava felt the stirring of something deep within, an awakening of her own strength and agency. This was the moment when they could transform, not only defining their roles in the trust but also what it meant to be a part of this family. Let us outline what we need going forward. If we are to move ahead, planning and strategy should become our focal points, she declared, glancing at Max, who nodded appreciatively at her proactive leadership. But before they could lay their plans, a sudden text alert broke the tension, a notification from an unknown number. Ava's heart raced as she glanced at the screen. The message was brief but ominous. You've only scratched the surface. The truth is far darker than you imagine. A cold shiver ran down her spine, the implications washing over her like a wave. What had they truly stepped into? The question loomed larger than ever, and an unsettling realization dug its claws into her. Would they be able to face it together, or would the revelations tear them apart? As Ava looked at her siblings, she knew this was just the beginning. There would be decisions that tested their loyalty, strength, and even their identities. The ground was shifting beneath them once more, and the stakes had never been higher. Would they embrace the truth, whatever it might hold, or would they retreat into the shadows of uncertainty? Ava could almost feel the heaviness of the unknown pressing in on them, a tangible suspense that seemed to thicken the air. Instinctively, she turned her phone over, casting aside the unsettling message in hopes of regaining the focus she desperately needed to steer this conversation back to the pressing matter at hand. They were at a crucial crossroads now, and retreating wasn't an option. Let us think strategically about this, she urged, locking eyes with Ben, who shifted uncomfortably. We have to gather as much information as possible before making any rash decisions. Ben, still wrestling with his skepticism, raised an eyebrow. What do you propose? We step into a potential minefield without knowing if it's even worth the risk? What if it is worth it? Ava countered, her voice gaining strength. What if this is the key to understanding why everything fell apart in the first place? We owe it to ourselves and to Dad to explore it. But we will approach this gradually. Knowledge is our weapon here. Chloe's anxious demeanor began to settle as Ava spoke. The analytical spark in her eyes returned, and she nodded thoughtfully, likely contemplating logistics even in her apprehension. A tactical approach could work, Chloe affirmed, her voice steadier now. We can start with the trust documents and the details of Dad's last projects, anything that could give us a clearer picture of what he was involved in and possibly why he set this whole thing up. Ava felt the momentum shift slightly as her siblings began to engage with the idea. Exactly. We'll dissect everything: the financial records, his connections, people he worked with. If there are any hidden truths lurking behind the legacy he left, we'll find them. Max, who had been a silent observer until now, spoke up. Be mindful, though. The journey into your father's world isn't devoid of danger. There's a reason he concealed certain things. His deep-set eyes narrowed slightly, mindful of their familial history, but Ava refused to yield to fear. Instead, she felt that familiar determination rising within her. We have to take that risk if we are to reclaim our narrative. I won't let this legacy become a prison. She leaned forward, injecting urgency into her words. If this is about shaping our future, we can't afford to linger in the shadows of doubt. Discontent stews in secrecy, while knowledge fuels strength. If we venture too deep, we may reveal the essence of who we are and what we're capable of. Ava noticed a flicker of acceptance in Ben's expression, and she pressed on. Let us not just uncover our father's past, let us use it to craft our own paths forward. Whatever we learn can either empower us or set us free from the shackles of expectation. With a collective breath, they shifted their focus back to the task ahead. Plans would have to be made. Research would need to start immediately, and Ava found herself assuming the role of a conductor, orchestrating a symphony of action in the face of disarray. As they gathered around the table, she felt a surge of responsibility and undeniable recognition of her growing leadership role. The cacophony of their differing emotions began to meld into an urgent purpose. Strategies formed, questions arose, guiding them toward clarity amid the chaos. Yet, just as they began laying down their groundwork, Ava's eyes caught the flash of another text notification on her phone. Her heart sank. The unknown number had reached out again. Trust no one. You're closer to the truth, but so are those who wish you harm. The room froze, and an icy shiver swept through her, unraveling the fragile threads of hope they had begun weaving. What had they actually stepped into, and how far would they go without jeopardizing their alliances? As the tension swelled, Ava's mind raced. Was this merely a tactic designed to frighten them, or was it a warning with roots deeper than she could fathom? As shadows loomed, she felt the stakes rising, not just for her but for her siblings as well. What lay ahead was an undefined turning point, the potential for both unity and division, hanging delicately in the balance. Would her resolve turn the tide in their favor, or would the truth they pursued lead them into perilous waters? As uncertainty loomed, the question echoed: how far would they venture for the sake of their identities, and what truths would they ultimately have to confront? Ava felt the weight of the room shift as her siblings' breaths quickened, mirroring the pounding of her heart. The gravity of the message hovered like a specter above them, a harbinger of the unknown. Silence stretched taut, every second laden with the unspoken fears that gnawed at them. Okay, she finally said, breaking the tension. What do we know so far? Let us list it out. Chloe flicked through her notebook, tapping her pencil against its edge. Dad had connections in high places, but he also had enemies. He was involved in ventures that could make or break reputations. We've seen how ruthless the industry can be. Exactly. Which is why we need to tread carefully, Ben interjected, his skepticism cutting into Ava's conviction. What if we dig too deep and end up unearthing something that puts us in danger? We can't let fear dictate our actions. Remember what we're fighting for here. Knowledge must guide us, Ava replied, her voice steadier now, challenging the hesitation that pangs within her. With every word, she felt her authority grow, her siblings' acceptance boosting her confidence. Max, who had been observing quietly, leaned forward. Are we sure the trust documents even exist? If Dad kept everything so secret, what makes us think he didn't hide those too? We can start by checking the archives of his company. There might be leads there, Chloe suggested. Additionally, we could reach out to people he worked with. Ava added, willing to extend their strategy. Gathering multiple perspectives could help paint a clearer picture of his dealings and any possible threats we might face. For a moment, her siblings exchanged apprehensive glances, but a shared sense of purpose sparked within the small circle. Determination began to bind them. Ava noticed it flicker like firelight in their eyes. How do we even begin? Ben asked, leaning back, surrendering an iota of his uncertainty. I'll handle the corporate documents, see if I can secure access to what's left in the archives, Chloe volunteered. I'll reach out to some of the contacts from Dad's last projects, Max said. Ava felt a surge of warmth at their nascent collaboration, but it was quickly sewn together with doubt and urgency. As she considered the risks, the unflinching words from the text echoed in her brain, casting shadows over her well-laid plans. Okay. We'll meet again in 3 days to share what we've found, she instructed, her voice steady but her heart racing. And we're in this together, no going solo. Stay vigilant. We're not just piecing together a legacy but protecting ourselves. As they gathered their things, Ava wondered about the thin line she was straddling between courage and recklessness. The resolve she felt mingled with an unsettling doubt about whether they were truly prepared for what lay ahead. Her mind spun with questions: what were they really chasing? And what unseen dangers might loom behind the veil of hidden truths? With every decision, the stakes escalated further, and much like kindling, doubt sparked within. She couldn't shake the unease as they parted ways, thoughts of possible betrayals and confrontations clouding her mind. Later that night, in her solitude, the unresolved tension coiled around her. Was uncovering these truths worth the potential fallout? She flipped through the scattered papers that represented not only her father's legacy but her own future, an inheritance teetering on the edge of peril. The very notion of her father hiding something so profound that it could threaten them sent shivers down her spine. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, a jolt of panic coursed through her. The same number, the same pulse of impending danger. Time is not on your side. The truth is hunting you, Ava. Her fingers tightened around the phone, the stakes amplifying her determination. She didn't simply want the truth, she needed it. But was she prepared for the lengths to which it would drive her? As night deepened, Ava asked herself an unsettling question: how far outside her moral boundaries was she willing to go to uncover the truth? Tomorrow would bring them closer, and the reality of her choices loomed. What awaited on the other side of discovery remained ominously shrouded, demanding answers she was only beginning to understand. Would their father's secrets unveil strength or fracture their fragile unity? Ava awoke to an unsettling stillness, the soft light of dawn bleeding through her curtains, illuminating the chaos within her mind. She had scarcely slept, her thoughts a relentless tide crashing against her resolve. Each wave brought a new worry. What dangers might lurk in the shadows of their father's secrets? Were they strong enough to confront whatever awaited them? Out of urgency, she forced herself to rise, each motion keenly aware of the weight of the day looming ahead. As she made her way to the kitchen, the echo of her siblings' voices from their previous meeting reverberated in her thoughts. Knowledge was both a shield and a sword. Wielding it required caution and respect. Would her brothers and sister understand the gravity of this undertaking? She took a seat at the table and opened her laptop, the familiar hum of technology grounding her. Securing access to the corporate archives would be her first step, but the thought of interacting with their father's former associates next sent a jolt of anxiety through her. Conversations about the past could open old wounds or worse, stir potential alliances against them. Ava recalled the terse warning from the unknown number. The truth, she acknowledged, was indeed merciless, ever eager to haunt and pursue. Setting aside her anxiety, she focused on crafting a structured approach for her day. She meticulously assembled a list of questions that spurred both professional curiosity and personal vigilance. Who were their father's closest confidants? Was there anyone who might provide insight without jeopardizing their safety? After a brief breakfast, she steeled her resolve and made her first call to a former colleague of their father's, Mark Jensen. The connection had been established long ago, and while no longer deeply engaged in their father's projects, Ava hoped he wielded the familiarity and candor they desperately needed. As the phone rang, a thrilling mixture of anticipation and trepidation surged through her. "Hello?" Mark's voice emerged, a peculiar mixture of warmth and wariness. "Hi, Mark, it's Ava Marshall. I hope you remember me. I need to ask about Dad's old projects." And Ava: "Yes, I remember you. What has happened?" There was a protective tone that intrigued her, an implicit concern that stirred something deeper within. After a brief pause, she inhaled and let the confidence swell within her. We're trying to piece together some lofted aspects of his work, particularly his dealings leading up to his passing. Can you help us clarify some things?" There was a moment of silence, and Ava could sense the gears shifting in his mind. "Ava, some things are best left buried. Your father had enemies, and it's not as simple as recovering his legacy. What you're asking for might lead you down a dangerous path." Her heart raced, the gravity of his words forcing her to grapple with fear. Was she overstepping, succumbing to recklessness? "I understand the need to tread lightly, but I also need to know if there are any documents or clues that could shed light on if he was protecting us or hiding from something. I'm not asking for secrets, just I need perspective." Minutes slipped into a deeper discussion, revealing insights that shook the foundations of Ava's perceptions. As Mark began to share anecdotal sketches of her father's dealings, she felt her certainty coalescing into a sharper focus. Her father had not merely navigated a cutthroat world. He danced through a labyrinth of deceit, forever on the lookout for threats. When she finally hung up, a sense of purpose washed over her. Ava was not just uncovering her father's past, she was forging her own path, the resolution shaping her identity in ways she hadn't anticipated. With every discovery, she leaned further into the challenge, a reflection of her own emergence as a protector for her siblings, a role she had never expected to inhabit. But just as she labeled the notes from her call with Mark, another notification pinged on her phone, pulling her attention sharply. A message popped up from the same unknown number. "Beware. You are not alone in your pursuit." A cold dread gripped her as she stared at the screen. The stakes were no longer just about uncovering the secrets of a legacy. They were intensifying into a realm of protection and survival. As she steadied her breath, she realized that she was fully committed to this path, no turning back. With Mark's revelations edging her toward clarity, Ava questioned how deep the rabbit hole went. What truths lay within reach, and at what cost? The answers were growing more perilous, and with every step she took, the urgency intensified. Ava could feel the boundaries of her moral compass shifting, but she pressed on, determined to interrogate the rest of her father's connections. What she discovered next could cost her everything or finally unearth the truth that connected her family's fragmented past. Nothing could prepare her for what awaited next. Ava sat rigid in her chair, her heart hammering against her ribs as the implications of the message sank in. The unknown sender's words nagged at her, weaving through her thoughts like a dark thread. She could no longer postpone her investigation. It was clear that the depth of her father's secrets intertwined intimately with their safety. If they were being watched, she couldn't afford to hesitate. Grabbing her notebook, she opened it to an empty page. The adrenaline coursing through her nerves compelled her to keep moving forward. She would need a plan, one that maximized her resources and minimized risk. The questions she drafted earlier felt too simplistic. Now they needed to evolve. Who might be connected to her father's hidden dealings? Who could offer insight without drawing attention? She began jotting down names, former employees, acquaintances, even rivals. Each carried a weight, a potential key to unraveling the mystery that loomed above their family like an unsheathed sword. With every name, her thoughts spiraled into what-if scenarios, transforming her apprehension into tactical analysis. Determination surged within her, shaping her newfound resolve. She would not be just a passive participant in a narrative spun by someone else. Rather, she would become an active force, seeking agency in the midst of uncertainty. As the morning progressed, she reached out to a handful of contacts, framing her inquiries under the guise of seeking closure on her father's legacy. The smile she felt while orchestrating this inquiry surprised her, its warmth counterbalancing the chill of her earlier fears. The first call went to Elaine Parker, a former marketing executive who claimed to have inside knowledge about their father's most ambitious projects. Ava clutched the phone tightly, feeling its weight as if it were the very link to a twisting and uncertain future. "Ava, it's been a long time. How can I help you?" Elaine's voice was perfunctory, laced with a businesslike apathy, but Ava sensed an undercurrent of tension. "Elaine, I'm going through some of Dad's work. There are things that don't add up. Do you have any insights into the last project he was involved in? Any hints about the people he worked with?" I can't really disclose much, Elaine replied more sharply than she intended. Ava caught the hint of anxiety behind her curt tone. Just a bit of context, please. I need to understand what he was faced with, Ava pressed, her voice steady yet insistent. Silence stretched between them, layering doubt around her. Would she break through Elaine's defenses? Resistance was palpable, but Ava's desperation imbued her with a steeliness she hadn't known she possessed. Finally Elaine sighed. It was complicated, Ava. There were discussions about funding sources of income that weren't above board. Your father was in way over his head. Ava's breath caught, and adrenaline sharpened her focus. Funding? Was that the source of her father's adversities? You mean he was in danger? I don't know, but I'd be careful if I were you. His final partner was someone I wouldn't want to cross. Powerful people tend to leave a trail of destruction. A shiver traveled down Ava's spine. She had finally stumbled upon a lead, however. With it came the recognition of an expanding threat. It would take more than clever planning to orchestrate her next steps. After hanging up, she scribbled down her revelations, each new detail darkening the atmosphere around her. With escalating stakes, Ava felt a growing strain on her moral compass as the line between protector and pursuer began to blur. As she faced an abyss of uncertainty, Ava knew one thing for sure: darts of danger and treachery awaited, and she could no longer avoid the confrontation. The intensity of her journey refined her instincts. Confronting her father's legacy would not merely be uncovering truths. It would require navigating a treacherous path towards clarity, even at the potential cost of her family's safety. Determined, she set her eyes on the last name on her list, a former business associate, notorious for ethical lapses. This would be the risk she couldn't back down from, the kind that would either solidify her resolve or send her tumbling into chaos. Ava took a deep breath, her heart racing with both fear and excitement. The time had come to face not just monsters lurking in the shadows but also her own fears. What price would she pay for the truth? Only time would tell, as the lines of loyalty began to tangle dangerously close to betrayal. Ava stood at the edge of her family's tumultuous past, resolute and transformed. After weeks of navigating the twists and turns of their father's legacy, she had unraveled not only layers of deception but pieces of her own identity. She cast a glance at the table where her siblings had been tirelessly working alongside her, their unity fortified through adversity, each of them stepping beyond their fears and no longer weighed down by uncertainty. Ava now held a firm grasp on her potential. The revelation she had uncovered about their father's dealings had sparked a fire within her that could not be extinguished. They had been given the power to reclaim not only their family's narrative but also their own futures. This moment felt monumental. The shadows that once loomed over them were beginning to clear, revealing paths no longer marred by secrets. With the trust documents in her hand, she gathered her siblings to discuss the final pieces of their father's intricate puzzle. We've come too far to turn back now. Each of you brings something invaluable to this journey, and together we are strong, she declared, conviction charged in her voice. We need to define what we stand for, not just as Marshall siblings, but as individuals ready to navigate whatever lies ahead. Ben, no longer the skeptical anchor of their trio, nodded in agreement, his earlier fears giving way to a burgeoning sense of purpose. Ava's right. We need to formulate a strategy around the trust that doesn't just restore our family's name, but becomes a launching point for our aspirations. We can turn our father's mistakes into a foundation for our triumph. Chloe's eyes sparkled with newfound energy, her analytical nature now aligned with Ava's assertiveness. We must ensure we're not repeating the cycle of his mistakes, she asserted, her inherent caution transformed into a compelling call for responsibility. Let us ensure the trust serves as more than a financial safety net. It has to be rooted in integrity. Ava felt a swell of pride as she observed the growth in her siblings, how they were no longer passive recipients of their father's legacy, but active players in molding it. This marked the pivotal moment of their transformation, not just as siblings but as individuals fiercely committed to understanding their identities while threading the delicate path of their father's past. Days turned into weeks as the triplets wrought their familial bonds tighter through collaborative decision-making. They faced challenges that tested their resilience. Rumors about their father's indiscretions lingering in public circles acted as a backdrop against their budding mission. However, each confrontation solidified their commitment to handle their father's legacy with the utmost transparency and vision. One afternoon, after intense discussions and planning, the three finally stood against Max Harrington, the billionaire who had unearthed the trust's existence. This meeting was as much about closure with their past as it was about embracing their future. Ava stood firmly, exemplifying the comprehensive understanding of her worth, bolstered by her siblings' solidarity. Max, we appreciate the chance you provided to explore our father's trust. But the path to our family's success will not be dictated by anyone but us. Max regarded them with respect, a smile creeping across his face. You've done remarkably well in such a short time. The three of you are ready not only to inherit but to evolve the very structure of what that trust represents. I see vision and tenacity in you. This validation spurred a sense of accomplishment within Ava. She had proven to herself that she was capable of leading, navigating uncharted waters, while remaining true to her values. It was more than her father's trust, it had become their collective endeavor, intertwining their dreams and identities into a tapestry of inspired resilience. As they gathered to celebrate their success, the weight of the past was lifted, replaced by undeniable anticipation for the future. Ava had not only embraced her father's legacy but had shaped it into a new narrative, a story of empowerment and strength where their individual identities thrived. With her newfound confidence and recognition solidified, Ava felt the rush of accomplishment. They were no longer shackled by their father's ghosts. They were empowered heirs shaping their narrative of success. Each challenge they faced morphed into an opportunity for growth, and the essence of family evolved from mere obligation to an adventurous partnership. Standing tall, Ava smiled as she marveled at what they had achieved together. The journey had transformed them in ways she never anticipated. No longer were they just children of expectation, they were leaders of vision. Join us in our next emotional odyssey. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that spark growth. Leave a like now to support our mission and fuel the algorithm. We want to hear from you. Comment your thoughts and theories about this journey. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformational conclusion. This is the moment to stand with us. Don't wait even one more second.